So the need is everywhere. I just chose a central region of Canada, which is the central part of Canada. And when you look at it, they're looking for interpreters who speak the following languages. I can actually see here that there is Bassa, there's Creole, there are a lot of languages that I see, African languages especially. We have Swahili, which I see, Spanish to English, Spanish to French. But what I wanted to mention is that I actually see that there is Bassa, a language spoken in the littoral region, or Douala, to be precise, in Cameroon. And if you have that combination, well, it's an opportunity for you. Moreover, I need to mention that the paid salary here is actually $50 an hour, which is very, very interesting for a first pay. My name is Eric Etoke. I am a certified independent translator. My passion for languages and cultures prompted the creation of this channel with the purpose of educating, informing, and sharing my experiences in Canada. Here we discuss practical realities about life in Canada revolving around integration, finances, immigration, news, tourism, retirement, investment, business, law, and publicity, amongst others. If one of these topics interests you, 1. Subscribe, and 2. Hit the notification bell to be informed about latest publications, the goal being to raise awareness about trending issues in Canada. Good afternoon, good morning. This is Eric Etoke, your certified translator and terminologist. I'm coming here today to talk about interpretation. It is a profession that we don't talk so much about, that we get confused with translation. So today we are looking at interpretation because there is a dire need for interpreters in Canada, and this dire need has made me to discover a lot of opportunities for those who want to embrace that profession. In this video, I'll be explaining to you the reasons why there are shortages, the opportunities that I found while doing my research that can help 1 or 2 persons. Like I said, we have to look at the reasons why there is a shortage of interpreters in Canada. We also have to look at the definition of an interpreter and look at some videos that would try to explain to us clearly who an interpreter is. And also we look at solutions that the government is trying to provide to help solve this problem that is really undermining the development in terms of communication in that area. So this video will be like a tutorial video where I have to go onto the different websites to be able to explain to you certain things so you understand better, because talking like this will not help us until we see visually what I'm trying to explain. Be patient with me and just follow up what I'm trying to do. So right up, let's go to look at the reasons why we have this problem of interpreters in Canada. In order to understand why there is this crying need for interpreters, we need to first of all look at the sources. What is the source of this problem? We're looking at the training itself. How many universities do train in interpretation? That's what we have to focus on, especially in Quebec, because the crying need is in Quebec compared to other provinces where there are somehow some schools of interpretation, but there are very few, I would mention. In another video, I'll try to make a research to tell you exactly how many universities or schools do train in interpretation. I will tell you there are very few. There used to be a famous school, one that I know, which is in Ottawa, and it's not been training many. For the purpose of this presentation, I'll like to focus on Quebec. So let's look at the list here. I have a website that I've put forth. The website I found is traductionmontreal.com, which tells us how many universities are offering translation and interpretation services. Amongst all these universities, we can find out that we don't actually see the title interpretation. We see more of translation. I'll take the first example. University of Montreal, département de linguistique et de traduction de Montréal. On a le baccalauréat en traduction, DES en traduction, MA en traduction, PhD en traduction. Regardons l'université de Concordia, which is also based in Montreal. Diplôme en traduction, maîtrise en traductologie, certificat anglais-français en langue et technique de localisation. McGill University, still based in Montreal, we have a graduate diploma in translation. The University of Laval in Quebec City, which is one of the biggest universities in Quebec. We have a maîtrise en traductologie et traduction, DESS en terminologie et traduction. We have the University of Toronto, which is based in Ontario province, which is in the Ontario province. We have a BA in French translation. We have the University of Ottawa, which I mentioned, maîtrise en traduction, maîtrise en interprétation de conférence, which is the one I know, which is one of the lone conference interpretation school. And we have maîtrise de traduction juridique,
doctorat en traductologie. We also have the Gladstone College University de York, which is in Toronto, certificat en traduction anglais-espagnol, maîtrise en traduction. Université du Québec à Ottawa, that is in Gatineau in Quebec, certificat d'initiation à la traduction professionnelle, baccalauréat de traduction et rédaction, diplôme d'études supérieures spécialisées en localisation et en rédaction hypermédia. Then we have the University of Quebec à Trois-Rivières, which is in Quebec, certificat de traduction en ligne, baccalauréat de traduction en ligne. And the last, which is le Collège universitaire de Saint-Boniface in Winnipeg, Manitoba, it's certificat de traduction par Internet. So when you look at this list, actually all universities in Canada which do offer training in translation and interpretation. Amongst all of these, what we've read clearly is under the University of Ottawa, where there is a master's in conference interpretation. This is just to tell you that there is a dire need and there is no input into this core, and which eventually is logical that we have this serious crisis. So after having explained the reason why we have this problem, we will now delve into looking at what interpretation is all about. So interpretation takes a lot of facets. We have different types of interpretation. We have interpretation which is simultaneous. We have interpretation which is conference. We have community interpretation. There are different types of interpretation. There's even medical and health interpretation. But in more sense, what we usually see in our daily lives is the conference interpretation, which we'll look here and examine the definition. And I'm taking the source from Translation Bureau, and it reads, conference interpretation. What does a conference interpreter do? A conference interpreter acts as an intermediary between two or more speakers who do not speak the same language. What is a conference interpreter? A translator is a professional who specializes in oral communication. What is a conference interpreter? A translator is a professional who specializes in oral communication. He or she is an excellent listener, communicates ideas, and has good interpretational skills, is bilingual and multilingual, demonstrates attention to detail, is very cultured, is self-reliant, is disciplined, has extensive intercultural curiosity, maintains high standards. What degree does a conference interpreter need? He needs a Master of Arts in Conference Interpreting. So this is a definition of what an interpreter is, but we can't really understand this definition if we don't see the masters at work telling us exactly what they do in their daily lives. Let's watch the next videos that are coming up to better understand this principle. Thank you.
My name is Chen Ji, or Ji Chen in Chinese. I'm a staff interpreter for the United Nations at its headquarters in New York. I work between two languages, my mother tongue Chinese and my second language English. I've been working for the UN since 2015, and prior to that I was a freelance interpreter servicing the specialized agencies of the UN based in Geneva. As a staff interpreter for the UN, we provide simultaneous interpretation service for UN meetings, conferences, and other events. An interpreter is first and foremost a linguist. He or she should have heightened linguistic sensitivity, and it goes without saying that they should have solid language skills in both the source and target languages. We need to show our passion for our profession, because without passion it's a boring commitment. But with passion we can have a pleasure that provides the drive for our work. If I were to find an adjective to describe myself, the word would be wholehearted, and that's what I go by in my daily work. Interpretation is a job, it's a discipline, it's an art, but most importantly, it's also a pleasure to be enjoyed. So enjoy it.
I'm Anne Ford. I'm an interpreter here working at the European Council. Our purpose is to try to ensure that the heads of state and government understand each other as well in 23 languages as they would normally speaking to each other in their own language. So even before we come into the booth, we have a system whereby we obtain information, background information for every meeting online. And it's very important that we are put in the same position as delegates, so we have the same information. But here, this is the file we get for the European Council. And when we come into the booth, we come in early so that we can prepare it. We can read through the letter from the President, the agenda here, and then we have all the detailed documents as we work our way through the file. This gives us the vocabulary, it gives us the background, but of course this is not the most important thing.
E sono particolarmente grato a Helle e anche a Jean-Claude. Fatto.
The most important thing about interpreting is not the words, it's not the language itself, it's the message, it's the spirit of what's being put across. So it's not a matter of a machine, it's not a matter of a translation which is written and takes a long time. We have to be able to listen, understand, process, and produce it in our own language and then convey that message, but we have to do it in a very, very short period of time, in just some kind of nanosecond. We have to do all those processes in our head. Right amusingly, somebody came into the booth the other day and said, I really admire what you do, but of course you have the script running along a screen in front of you, as they really believed that we had the script. No, it's totally improvised. Everything that's said in this room we can interpret live, and it's actually much more exciting than when people read speeches.
So in effect, with what we've watched, the two videos we've watched clearly tells us who an interpreter is and gives us the best way to think about them and best illustrates the usual activities of an interpreter. So if you want to become an interpreter, this is your choice now. You rather think about what these two guys said and decide. But it's a pretty nice profession. It's a pretty good profession, although with a lot of stress as well, because they speak a lot during the day, and so sometimes they may get headache and a lot of problems in terms of ergonomy, that is sitting positions and rest. But all like, it's a well-paid profession, and if you're thinking of delving into this profession, why not? There are few interpreters that are trained, and there are many interpreters that are needed. Thank you. So after watching the video, you can clearly understand that the profession is not an easy one. It's really a tough job. And in another video, I will try to explain what a translator is, trying to make the difference between a translator and interpreter, and also a sign language interpreter, which is also another profession of the core. And we also have terminologists and other linguistic services related to translation, like revisers and the rest. So for now, what has happened? What's the government trying to do? Because of this dire need, there is a solution that came up recently, and the government is trying to resolve it. Although it's not really what we think it should be, because a solution like this, which I will read in the press release that we have in front of us, will tell you exactly why the solution is not really one that is really welcome. Although it will be a stepping stone to kind of resolve this crisis for now. But we know this crisis has to be resolved through immigration. As we know, many interpreters need to be recruited outside the country, and this is the opportunity for many to hang on this job, So without wasting time, let's look at what the government is trying to bring a solution to kind of stop this hemorrhage. So we have a press release here which states that the government of Canada announces a partnership with Laval University for a new interpretation program. The news release, October 25, 2024, Quebec, Public Service and Procurement Canada. The government of Canada is committed to supporting the use of official languages in Canada and to ensure that Canadians have access to information in the language of their choice. Today, the Honorable Jean-Yves Duclos, Minister of Public Services and Procurement and Quebec Lieutenant, announces a new partnership program between the Translation Bureau and the University of Laval to create a graduate micro program in interpretation. It's a micro program, remember? A micro program is not even a certificate. It's I think a 15 credit program. Well, we'll look at it. We'll go into the program and see what it looks like through the university. The goal of this partnership is to help bolster the number of accredited interpreters in Canada, many of whom provide services to Parliament and Government of Canada departments and agencies. The Translation Bureau is looking for ways to address the shortage of interpreters in Canada. The new program announced today will be launched in September 2025 and consists of 12 credits in interpretation. I actually said 15, but it's 12. This partnership will allow the Translation Bureau and the University of Laval to collaborate closely in training students and recruiting interpreters, as well as carrying out research and activities focused on future of the profession. The Translation Bureau will support the Laval University by offering the services of at least 2 interpreters who will assist the 2 of the program's courses, offering students opportunity for learning in the workspace, inviting students to complete the program to take part in the Translations Bureau accreditation exam, making graduating students aware of the job openings within the Translation Bureau. This is the news release that was recently published. We talked of 12 credits, so let's look at the 12 credits now through the University of Laval's portal. So this is the portal that is focused on the micro program for the second cycle in interpretation, 12 credit. So since it is in French, I'll read it in French. What interests me here is the number of credits and the courses that are offered. Donc ici, nous avons le micro-programme du cycle en interprétariat. Et c'est un cycle de 12 crédits. Donc, ce qui m'intéresse ici, c'est de voir les types de cours qui sont dans le programme. Ici, nous allons regarder dans les différents cours qui sont offerts par le programme. Et quand on le constate, on a ici 2 cours qui sont obligatoires. Donc, l'initiation au monde de l'interprétariat, la documentation, l'analyse et la synthèse de texte. Tous sont 3 crédits. Parmi les 3 autres cours, il y a 2 cours qu'il faut choisir pour pouvoir avoir un total de 12 crédits. Donc, il y a le cours qui s'intitule « La pratique de l'interprétation simultanée », la pratique de l'interprétation consécutive et le stage de pratique en interprétariat. So what in a nutshell I was trying to do here is trying to give you the different courses that would make up the 12 credits that we're looking for. So we have 2 composite courses, initiation into interpretation, documentation analysis, and summary of text. The last 2 courses that have to be selected from the 3 that we have here, practice of simultaneous interpretation, the practice of consecutive interpretation, and a practicum or an internship, which will sum up to 12 credits in all. Now, let's look at who are those qualified to be admitted into this program. So, conditions to be admitted in this program are as follows. The program began in September and it's running, so this is the first batch. And the first condition is you must have a bachelor's degree in translation or an equivalent certificate in that field. And you must have at least a GPA of at least 3 on 4.3 or its equivalents. Documents that have to be submitted, of course, your CV, letter of recommendation. For candidates who are non-francophones, they have to show proof of a document that justifies that they can speak French, thus a French proficiency. So in a nutshell, the program will be entirely in French. Donc pour être admis à ce programme, il faut déjà avoir un baccalauréat, qui est une licence dans d'autres pays. Puis il faut avoir une moyenne d'au moins 3 sur 4,3. Et puis déposer au registraire un CV, des lettres de motivation. Et puis si on est un candidat francophone, en effet, il faut démontrer avec des preuves qu'on a fréquenté dans une université francophone où on a un bac en français. For non-francophone candidates, they have to write French exams like the TCF and the rest to be able to demonstrate that they are able to undergo this program. Having said this, let's jump into the opportunities that are available right now for those who are interpreters. My goal here is to present the opportunities to those who are already here, who are permanent residents or citizens who just came as migrants and are seeking for a job. Like I mentioned, all the links that I've mentioned here will be listed below in the description page of this channel. So get in and look. And also, if you have any questions, I'll gladly answer your questions. Before I talk about opportunities, I'd like to tell you that there are various ways of becoming a professional interpreter. The first known way is to pass the accreditation exam of the Translation Bureau or Bureau de la Traduction. And there's another one which is very hidden that I just discovered today is by searching for a job through the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada. There are a lot of opportunities, and this is one that is on the screen, which we'll look at very soon. We have different orders and associations that are based in different provinces and territories of Canada. They do run separate programs that accommodate interpreters and the other related linguistic professions. So without wasting time, let's look at the Immigration and Refugee Board, which is right now looking for interpreters to work, especially in the following languages. So the need is everywhere. I just chose a central region of Canada, which is the central part of Canada. And when you look at it, they're looking for interpreters who speak the following languages. I can actually see here that there is Bassa, There's Creole, there are a lot of languages that I see, African languages especially. We have Swahili, which I see, Spanish to English, Spanish to French. But what I wanted to mention is that I actually see that there is Bassa, a language spoken in the littoral region, or Douala, to be precise, in Cameroon. And if you have that combination, well, this is an opportunity for you. Moreover, I need to mention that the paid salary here is actually $50 an hour, which is very, very interesting for a first pay. You know, who are qualified to be recruited for this? We have, if you're a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, you need to have at least a secondary school level of education, and then you have the ability to obtain security clearance, which means that you don't have any criminal records. How to apply? Everything is on the website, so like I said, I'll mention the links below so you can follow up. The next we'll look at is the Translation Bureau. So this is the page for the Translation Bureau, and the Translation Bureau gives us the criteria for you to become an interpreter with them. Have a university degree in conference interpretation, have a university degree and have completed at least 20 days of official language English French conference interpretation as distinction from community and court interpretation within the last 2 years. Have at least 2 years experience in conference interpretation position in a recognized organization such as Canadian Legislature, the European Union, the United Nations, North Atlantic Treaty Organization NATO, International Monetary Fund, the International Civil Aviation Organization, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the European Parliament. Be a member of an international association of conference interpreters. Be certified as a conference interpreter by the Ordre des traducteurs, terminologues, interprètes agréés du Québec, OTIAC, or by the provincial or territorial association affiliated with the Canadian Translators, Terminologists and Interpreters Council, CTTIC. All what I listed were the first basic requirements. Now, the second set of requirements, you have to pass the Translation Bureau's accreditation exam. So the details, you have to send everything through email, send a CV, and you're scheduled for an exam. If you succeed, fine and good. You go to the third option, which is you obtain your Canada Revenue Agency business number and your procurement business number. After you've succeeded, then you go to the third requirement, which is you obtain your Canadian Revenue Agency business number and your procurement business number. That's for tax purposes, as you know. And the last thing that you do is to apply for registration into the Translation Bureau's directory of linguistic service suppliers. All the other instructions are in there for you to follow. Basically, that is what is the opportunity you have with the Translation Bureau. Now, the third opportunity you have to become an interpreter is to join the associations and orders that exist in Canada. There's just one order that exists in Canada. It's actually in Quebec. And that's the website that you see. The translation, the order AUTRES as it is called, l'Ordre des traducteurs, terminologues, interprètes du Québec, offers opportunity to be certified as an interpreter, which means that you have the ability to work for a number of organizations and the government of Quebec. We have an association also based in Ontario, which also gives accreditations to those who qualify as interpreters. It's called the Association of Translators and Interpreters of Ontario, l'Association des Interprètes Traducteurs de l'Ontario. It also gives a path to certification for interpreters. There are other associations. You know, Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories, so there are other associations that are all over there that you can apply to get your certification as well. In another video, we will try to explain the different associations and the different steps that are required to become a certified translator, terminologist, or interpreter. So for now, we're done with the video. I guess it was fun for you watching. If you liked it, please just subscribe and encourage me with comments for more thrilling videos coming soon. Bye-bye.